All right, good evening to our PWHL and Black Stitch hockey supporters. As you all know, last night was a pretty late night with a triple overtime game. Um, got off to a little bit of a slow start tonight, solely because I was watching the end of our first live stream that we're running over on our Facebook platform, which, as many of you know, is been our flagship program for a very long time and has been going for what is now 33 episodes. As I continue to put some stuff together on putting our guests together. We've got that previous pod wrapping up with those guys, which they're great. Featured the debut of Eric Cherry, one of our other visual audio contributors who's been working behind the scenes on some really interesting content. And very, very much enjoyed his content. Excellent. Welcome back, Kelsey. It's been a couple days since we've seen you on here.
Yep. Got a good game to talk about.
Yes, we do. Not sure who we'll have if we have a third guest. Damien's currently wrapping up some Boston Bruins discourse over on our other platform. But, I think we had more than enough events from last night's phenomenal 3 overtime, 110-plus minute, absolutely phenomenal game, really. One of the best I've seen, and I'll admit I'm a sucker for very long hockey games. Growing up as a Anaheim Ducks fan on the East Coast, there was a lot of nights during the '07 Cup run, the famous Luongo bathroom break game that went to 4 OT, and I think I went to bed at 3:30 in the morning that night to be up for 6 o'clock in the morning for school. So this is the kind of playoff hockey that I love. And on that opening, I will open up the floor for your initial thoughts on the game.
Yeah, definitely a very tight game. We knew going into it that it was going to be tight between Montreal and Boston, especially how the first game ended. And both teams just looked to be solid. Montreal still did not use their fourth lineup, which I still find very surprising because I believe Erin Ambrose had I think she had over 60 minutes of ice time last night, or 55 minutes. So it's tough to say whether they'll be good to play on Tuesday or not. Boston has a chance to close it out.
Oh, absolutely. It's pretty funny. We are big Erin Ambrose supporters, despite our Boston leaning for a couple of reasons. One, she is absolutely phenomenal, one of the best defensemen or defense women in the league, as we kind of alluded to last week, along her, Ella Shelton, Savannah Harmon, and obviously Megan Keller. But also the fact that, and a shout out to a friend of ours from the Massachusetts hardcore punk music scene, our buddy Eric from Sludge Surfer went to Clarkson with her for, I believe, 4 years during her collegiate years. So we'll always have a little bit of a love for all of her accomplishments, just on that affiliation to our very small circle of friends out here on the East Coast. But also, I'll give her a lot of credit for her 60-plus minutes of that was the fifth most minutes played all time by a North American professional ice hockey player, even when weighted against National Hockey League players. And the only player to clear the 60-minute mark in NHL history, I believe, in a 3OT game was, I believe, Seth Jones. Could be wrong about that, but based on him being the only player I can recall from that list who's played in the last 10 years, I believe that Seth Jones is the only active player that's ever seen that kind of deployment. But nevertheless, yes, it was Seth Jones. I am not mistaken on that.
Yep,
So,
6506 he had.
crazy to think Montreal's coaching had a defenseman play 12 seconds last night and a defenseman play 65 minutes last night, give or take. Um, Made especially more heinous on the fact that today is Leah Lum's birthday after playing only 4.5 minutes last night for Montreal. Definitely not good social media optics for the PWHL Montreal group of their entire fan base being very critical of you left the birthday girl on the bench all night.
Yep. Abby Cook too. It's also her birthday. She got zero.
I
That's
will
that's the only
say,
player that has nothing for Boston.
yeah,
There's a few that have like only like a few seconds over on Montreal.
I am really intrigued about Kessel having Cook in the lineup but not deploying her at all recently. Um, I really thought we were going to see some Abby Cook last night, especially when Megan Keller went down the tunnel for a bit. Um, I will say, and I'm going to probably butcher her last name on this, and I apologize in advance,
I
but
think
Jessica
it's
DiGirolamo.
yeah, DiGirolamo.
Um,
You got it.
DiGirolamo, I thought she was a good second pairing defenseman all year, and I was not impressed by her during the regular season. But after last night's performance, I've got to say I was not aware of her game as much as I probably could have been. She very much stepped up for Boston last night in, playing the most minutes on the blue line, handling the heavy matchups against the pool online in the first and second OT. I mean, we all know Sydney Morin from her time with the Minnesota Whitecaps and the PHF can really hang
Mm-hmm.
in tough contested minutes, but DiGirolamo and even Fratkin and Jess Healy down into the third overtime. Boston's defensive depth just phenomenal last night.
I think our depth is where it needs to be. I feel like all we have very strong defenders, which definitely pulls into that seventh player. Like who would they put on the fourth line on defense? There's definitely a lot of good players to put on there. I think Abby Cook. I think she deserves some playing time. I'm surprised she didn't get any playing time last night, but I don't think she's been too on fire since we picked her up. But I think she's still like a solid defender regardless, as much as our other ones.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm really surprised that she hasn't seen a lot of deployment, but I will also, to some degree, acknowledge that Boston has been lucky and unlucky at the same time that all of their injuries have been in their forward group, which when they haven't had a substantial injury on the back end, which I think has to some degree prevented the need. And really, I think from a game sense point of view, getting Abby Cook into just it's such a big part of hockey is comfort and um, one second, sorry. Really comfort, consistency, and chemistry with your teammates, and and I think just because they didn't have the injuries and they were in win now mode pretty much for the entire time after the Jacks Tapani trade, like
Yeah.
I don't think that Kessel, and I've been critical of her, but this time I'm not, just didn't have a great opportunity to get her into the lineup consistently outside of practice and really getting people up to game speed when every game is do or die. Um, it's very, very difficult to, get people acclimated in those kinds of situations. And we've seen that in previous NHL playoff runs. I know the Ducks years ago made a crazy trade to get James Wisniewski at the deadline. They gave up a lot of assets for him, and due to injuries on his end and just the team's construction, um, wasn't able to get into the lineup, get into the chemistry, and make any noticeable impact. And I just feel kind of that's been the scenario with Abby Cook.
Definitely. I thought she would see a little more ice time after the international break. I think she had decent ice time before then, but I think she's just been slowly like getting down. And I don't think she played much last game either, if I recall correctly. But you are right about our forwards. I am glad that not glad, but it's ironic that all of our injuries have been our forwards lines. I think our secondary scoring has been really working well for us in that case scenario.
Oh, absolutely. I believe now three out of Boston's four goals in this series have come from their bottom six, which is not surprising at all.
I'm trying to think about
Um,
the lineup. Mm,
because yeah, Lexia Gia is traditionally on the third line with Sophie Shirley, and they had the goal on in game one, and then subsequently they had um, game four, Wenskowski and
Healthy.
Pelkey are
Yep.
both on the fourth line. And it looks like from the audio I'm picking up, we do have our third member, Matt Gover, has populated somewhere in the audio stream.
What's up?
There, there he is. So, for those who don't know Matt and why Matt's an absolute beauty to have on our podcast, I was holding off on talking about Aaron Frankel until we got Mr. Gover on here. We're just going to jump right into this. Matt is somebody who has played in a triple overtime game on, I believe, more than one occasion and stopped between 50 and 100 shots in your collegiate and junior careers. Can you kind of walk us through, what's probably going through Aaron Frankel's mind, when you're hemmed down in your own zone as a goalie in a triple overtime game against a team that, for all intents and purposes has more offensive skill than you?
In all honesty, you're just trying to survive. Like, when you get to that double overtime, then the triple overtime period, like, your body is ready to fall apart. And it's more of, like, just staying in it mentally and making sure that you don't have that, like, one mental lapse that, like, possibly could cost you the game, may not. But it's honestly just a mental grind as well as physical.
Awesome. Thank you for that part on there, Matt. So Kelsey, what were you seeing on Franco? Your thoughts on her performance really as that game went along?
I think she's just been solid all throughout the series, and I definitely think our defense is also. I feel like they've gotten better since the first game, and I feel like now that she has more help, she's just making more unstoppable saves. I believe she's stopped like I think she set another record last night for most saves in PWHL history. So that's two records she set in not consecutive days, but back-to-back games.
And I mean, to and again, I'm going to throw this back to Matt because unfortunately or fortunately for his hockey playing career, he can relate to Erin Frankel in the sense of, her being a 5'5" goaltender, short by the standards of every other player in her league and in her field, and Matt, obviously you being 5'10", 5'11", I think your heights kind of scale out proportionally. So what are some things that you're looking at, perspective wise in your games? What are little things you do and are able to do without giving away trade secrets, of course, to really read the game and use your hockey IQ and your athleticism, where you obviously weren't born with the height that other players are. How do shorter players, especially at the goaltending position, close the gap and end up being more talented than their taller, more naturally gifted counterparts?
In all honesty, it's anticipation of the plays, puck tracking, and skating ability are like the top three that I would say that I would probably say are crucial. Um, flexibility and athleticism are also going to be key because you got to play a more aggressive style. Like, I'm not a very structurally positioned goalie. Like, I'll always be in position, but I will like go out and make a save. Like, that's probably unorthodox, but it's what it is. You gotta do what you gotta do.
I love it. And we really just, from her so far, and this, during the regular season, I don't like to argue with strangers on the internet. It never ends well. It's not something I ever want to do. So, I sat there and I listened to the Kristen Campbell dialogue. And to be fair, Kristen Campbell is absolutely amazing, and I'm not about to say anything negative about her because it's not warranted and it's not justified. We've talked all season about how talented Frankel is, how she is, without a doubt, at least in our minds, the best goaltender in the PWHL at this point, based on hockey IQ, the athleticism that you alluded to, and all those things. Like, and you think about the postseason and these games where, and I'll dive a little bit deeper into this a little bit of the grind game that comes in the postseason, and just Frankel's ability to do seemingly everything she needs to do and more when her team, when you're a grinding team, and they know they're not going to outskill Montreal, and just sitting and just going out there into corners and tough plays below the goal line, and just Frankel knows she's going to get D support, but just the knowledge that you're sitting back there and just your team is going to grind this out, and as long as you don't make a mistake, you will survive the other team. It's just
That is true.
it's one of those things it's so fascinating. I saw it with you this year, Matt. Um, we saw it from the goalie, and I hate the fact that his name is escaping me right now because he deserves the shout out. Over at Curry College, who endured that 4 overtime 99 save game in the Natty.
Soderblom?
Yes, Soderblom. And you look at that game where they tried everything in their power to grind that game out against a much more skilled team. And, they scored 3 goals on 34 shots and just, obviously Frankel is pound for pound a professional and one of the most hockey IQ skilled goaltenders in the world. Obviously her size and overall athleticism will prevent her from being able to, do the man al Rayum and, penetrate into, the NHL or the AHL. But, and I've said this for a while, I would love to see her suit up and get a couple games in the coast to see what that would look like. Because I think she has the skill level to potentially see the coast. And I love seeing her in high pressure situations like last night. So the pace of play last night, I think something we also saw in an elongated game. Something that I really appreciated and really would love to pass this off to you guys. Just some of the shot blocking last night. We talk about Hillary Knight's skill, but I mean, just both sides sacrificing the body and making the play for their team.
It's
Definitely a
honestly
shot.
like,
Oh, yep. Go ahead, Matt.
oh, you go. Oh, you.
I was gonna mention again, DiGirolamo. I feel like she was in front of almost every shot she faced. She just completely locked it down, as well as especially on the PK. I think last night I saw probably the best PK unit that I've seen all season. I think we just shut it down completely, except for the first goal. But I think it was like I feel like every time there was a shot somewhere, someone wasn't there to defend it, even on Montreal's side as well.
I mean, it's at the end of the day, playoff hockey is just a different breed. Like, I know I didn't catch the game last night, but the team that's willing to put their bodies on the line and do that and like try and grind for that extra inch are teams that are gonna win hockey games. That's how you beat your opponent.
Oh yeah, Matt. I think my favorite part from your attention to the game last night. I mean, even if you had watched it, provided you didn't even remember texting me about the game last night.
Yeah, that was a fun night. Tough morning.
Oh yeah, we both had a lot of fun, Matt. The difference is you and I were adrenaline pumping, living our best lives, and I think your sister was just waiting to come home and go to bed.
Yep.
Now
Sounds
she's
about right.
she's anxiously awaiting her attempted chance to murder Matthew Kachuk that may never come.
Dude, that game right now we were watching on the course a little bit. It's crazy.
So sorry to segue off into that, but really needed to lay into the beauties of playoff hockey. And
Dude, it's
I love I love the edge that we've seen Boston play with. Like and I've seen, and I'm not going to name any names of a Montreal analyst who's been pissing me off for the last 3 days, whining about some of the hits in the game. Specifically highlighting, I want to say, I don't remember who threw the hit, but it was against Katie Taben along the boards. And, she's like, oh, this is a dirty hit. And I watched the replay. I'm like, well, one, she could have gone through her numbers and made a full extent cross check and boarded her directly head first in. But no, she doesn't do that. And you've seen enough hockey, Matt, and I'm going to walk you through one of the cleanest hits I've ever seen. The right winger playing the point comes up and over the back of the defender who is facing the boards, comes in and checks her with her shoulder and arm through her lower hip back area to ensure that the principal point of contact drives her parallel to the boards.
that's clean as that.
And I'm hearing, this is a dirty hit. How are you? And I sat here, I'm like, have you never watched, reading this journalist take, have you never watched professional hockey outside of, like, the women's Olympics? Like, it,
That's
this
just
is a
somebody
similar.
that does not know hockey. No offense.
I sit here and I've seen some illegal checks. I don't think there were any illegal checks in game two. I know Alexei Agia got ejected for what is probably the softest 5-minute major I've ever seen. Um, I'll have to drum up that hit for you later, Matt. But coming from behind a player in the neutral zone, gets stick on puck coming from behind the right shoulder, pushes through with the shoulder, and the recipient of the hit dips their head while trying to play the puck, and just as she's overtaking her, goes shoulder to head as she's coming around from the shoulder. Like, I
Don't,
think I've seen that.
don't put your head down.
Like, we're not talking open ice. Like, we're not talking a player, on a bang bang play. We're literally just a stronger, faster player overtaking you through your shoulder from behind, somehow being a 5-minute major.
Dude, I think it's honestly
Despicable.
they get scared. They get scared whenever they see a big hit. Because refs, even like at the Division 3 level, like it happens all the time. Where it's like if a kid gets blown up, it could be the cleanest hit you ever see, and they'll give you a rough and go.
Matt, I'm glad I had you on here because I was avoiding talking about the officiating in this series until I had somebody who's played at a high enough level that could defend my takes as somebody who's seen it from first person when shit goes sideways.
Oh boy, don't even get me started.
Oh, I know. Trust me, I've been there. I've been behind you. I've seen it, man.
Amount of times I get freaking ran and then just no call. I'm like, that's great, thank you.
Oh yeah, no. I was talking to my wife earlier about the time we almost fought or how I would have fought the owner of the Avs over some of his chirps after his boy ran you. So,
Oh my god, that game was crazy.
but I digress. Back to the league at hand. I guess Kelsey, I'll roll it in so we don't roll along too long here. What were some of your, I guess we'll wrap this in two thoughts. What were your favorite takeaways from game two, and what are you looking for in game three?
Takeaways. Ooh, kind of. I just know it's gonna be a more physical game. I said it last time, but I think Montreal they're gonna want to avoid the elimination as much as possible. I just think in general they're being outcoached by Courtney Kessel. Boston's just running over Montreal any chance they get. I definitely think we have a high stakes game on Tuesday, and I'm excited for it.
Absolutely. I look forward to reading your article on game three after it happens. I haven't put this out here publicly, but due to my attendance plans for game three and game four and my day job, the chances of me getting an article out for those are zero. So I look forward to reading whatever you get out on Inside the Rink. And for Black Stitch Hockey, for games three and four, this podcast will be our principal point of coverage for anybody that follows our website. The written word will be our friend Kelsey here, and any opinions we have on it, we'll save for this. So she's
I'm
our recommended go-to for that.
I'm also curious to see because you were talking about it earlier to me about how Montreal does not play the fourth line. You get that
Yes.
triple overtime. You get that triple overtime game. You're gassed for more than a day or two. Like it takes a lot longer to recover than people think. Like Boston's gonna have a lot more legs probably jump like right out of the jump than people think.
I, I think the X factor for Boston potentially in that game is if Abby Cook sees some deployment, but if Jamie Lee Rattray is back from injury in game three, with all of that said, I think, to have a top six forward who can score and can play a 200-foot game, rested after missing, 8 days to an injury, would be absolutely really over. Like that could really put Boston over the top in that series or in that game to maybe finish the series in three.
100%.
And that is all we have for y'all tonight. I believe we will see you all again Wednesday night after game three, and we'll continue to expand this PHL corner now that Kelsey is officially an affiliate of Black Stitch Hockey. Really figuring out ways we can do some potential PWHL and collegiate coverage during the off season to have as much women's hockey content as possible for the people who are hungry for it, which I think, as we all know, there are quite a few people who are very excited for the future of the women's game. So we will collaborate to give you guys the most interesting content we can. Hopefully until forever. Who knows? Thank you all, and have a great rest of your night, and have a good week until we see you on Wednesday.